when the events of 2021 happened, a new generation came up, and a lot of young people started asking questions, but they were different. They didn't want long analysis. They wanted anecdotes, explanations, knowledge about who people were. Transnational Institute and a lot of the groups in Burma are very keen on working at the grassroots, not having top-down approaches to discussing the problems. They really think it's important that voices on the ground can be heard, and that's indeed where digital media is very effective. More people were dying of preventable and treatable illnesses like malaria and TB than were dying in conflict. Maternal and child mortality rate was incredibly high. Burma got into this conflict trap where it couldn't solve the politics because of the conflict, and it couldn't solve the conflict because of the politics. I actually see the central state, the Myanmar state, as the problem. The Myanmar state is divided. It was divided at independence between the communists and the socialists, and then it was between the military, and they went socialist, and the communists, and then UNU took up arms. And then in the last 30 years, you've had the Tatmadaw with its USDP, and you've got the NLD, and so on. What is happening is they are divided. And what tends to happen is you've got a division in the central state, and then the problems go out into the ethnic states, the ethnic areas, and they multiply because that's where the conflict is. The Tatmadaw, they're not interested at all in sharing power. And it's an ethnic Burma elite. I would almost call it fascist. It's got its trainings back in the Second World War from Imperial Japan, this ruthless way to treat civilian populations. Not everyone in the Tatmadaw is like this, but they seem incapable of changing. And when I've asked them, why don't you change? They've said, our first lesson is you never surrender, you never back down. The military coup in 2021 was one of the most unnecessary coups in world history. And still now, I don't think the generals know why they took power except to have power. To think that in the 21st century, there is a country in Southeast Asia where the government, the military or the quasi-government, is bombing its own people on such scale. It's hard to fathom. The United Nations has had a special envoy on Burma since 1992. And yet 30 years plus later, we have to ask, what cohesion, what effect is the United Nations bringing to the country today?